All right. Hi, everyone. Can you, hope you guys can hear me. If you can't hear me, you could send a one through the chat box. My name is Janet Umenta, and I'm part of the My Health Career Navigator team. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your Tuesday night or Tuesday afternoon if you're in the West Coast for this great webinar. Here we have Kahaari Kenyatta. We know each other from, we both did Health Career Connection internship in 2016 in New York, and he graduated from University of Pennsylvania in 2016 with a degree in public health, and he's currently a research analyst at Ipsos. We connected basically on LinkedIn, and he has, I think, over 1,000 followers on LinkedIn. And while we were interviewing, I interviewed him for a piece, and he just told me just so much about LinkedIn and how it's helped him in his career. So I'm really happy to have him on, and just for him to tell him for him to share with you all his tips on LinkedIn and his story. So thank you, Kari.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you for the introduction. Happy to be with you all today, this evening. I'm planning to take about, I'm going to shoot for under half an hour, to just kind of tell you a little bit how I first got involved in LinkedIn and how I first started to really get something from it. I'll share a little bit about how I found myself here at Ipsos. And then I'll try to give you all some tips on how you can get more out of the platform. Because I mean, I am its biggest evangelist. Uh, so, like Janet said, I attended the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, graduated in 2016, and it was the summer, or just at the end of my junior year, actually. So this was, call it May, June of 2015. And at that point, I mean, the school, it's very pre-professional. And I was thinking, okay, well, it's about time I get on this platform. A lot of my classmates were already there in some respect, even though it was early, but it was something that they found was helpful for getting internships or getting in contact with people at different companies. So I said, okay, let me get started. And I mean, it was a slow process. Back then, LinkedIn wasn't the community it is today. It definitely had some penetration, and there were a lot of users on LinkedIn at that point, but it was still very young. And I think today there's a much richer community there that makes it even easier to use, but also so much more rewarding. So at that point, I was really using it just as kind of a web-based resume. Or even more so, like I would compare it to a college application in a sense, because you have all your schooling, you have all the roles you've had, if you choose to. Um, Definitely further down in your career. Older, more mid-career professionals might not have every role they've had, but you have the groups you're into, you have the volunteering that you're involved in, yeah, and you really just build it out. So it was a project of mine for, I mean, over months, through my junior year into my senior year, just kind of improving it, building on it, um, crafting the language more and more. But eventually, I had a really solid profile, and I started to reach out more aggressively to all my friends in college, reach back out to people from high school that were on the platform, and then later on, like once I had graduated, once I was an HCC intern myself, it was great to have like my history and my background somewhere online and accessible. So I could then connect with my mentors in HCC and connect with other interns, and we could learn about each other's backgrounds and see where our interests, where we had shared interests. So that's kind of how I got started. And again, I do wanna reiterate, it is a process. Um, but yeah, to come a little more to the present. So that was wow, that was over 3 years ago now. Call it 3.5 years ago when I first got on LinkedIn. But about a year ago, or let's go back to 2 years ago. I moved to Washington D.C. I knew this was an area I was interested in, and funny enough, my first job down here, my first full-time job here, um, I was reached out to by a recruiter on LinkedIn. Now, this recruiter, it was at a company that I had sent an application to for another role, but she saw my name, she looked me up, and she said, "Okay, well, I see he has these skills and these skills, and I think he would be a better fit in this company, in this other department." So she reached out. Um, we got into a conversation, and I ended up moving down here. Now, after about 10 months there, I said, "Okay, this company, this role, I don't think it's for me." So that's when I started to spend a lot more time on LinkedIn again. And to take a little bit of a step back, I guess I should say that in addition to connecting with my co-interns at HCC, I was also really enjoying the writers and influencers on LinkedIn. It was it was really great, especially just starting in my career, to be exposed to articles on, like interviewing techniques or talking about networking, talking about how to navigate workplace conflict. So, I mean, all these things, I was feeding off all of this and like learning bit by bit about how to become the professional I wanted to become. So when it was time to start looking for a job again, at that point, I was on the platform enough, so I was already gradually updating my own profile, keeping that up to date, and also, staying involved and keeping an eye on my feed. I knew what my friends and colleagues were doing professionally. So when it was time for me to leave that first role down in DC, I noticed that, well, I had known already, but a coworker of mine in that first company, he had left about a year ago today, a year ago from today. So I got started at the company in April of 2017, and he left in October, November um, of 2017. And it was, call it December when I started to look around. So I reached out to him. I'm like, "Hey, we're both in research. You were doing health research. How are you enjoying your new role? What is the culture like at that company, at Ipsos, where I am now? Um, like what's different, what's unique about how Ipsos approaches research?" And I mean, we talked like we were buddies back at the old company. So I mean, it was very laid back, but I mean, he sold the company to me, and I mean, 4 months later, the application process goes through. I leave the old job, and I mean, here I am, and I've been here for 7 or 8 months now. So I mean, LinkedIn, it's just it's an incredible tool to keep you linked in. Like I don't think I would have known where he had gone to had I not been on LinkedIn. And we probably would have lost contact. He worked on the other side of the office from where I was working back at the old company. So I mean, even if we were buddies, I wasn't always talking with him. but staying connected through a platform like this, uh, I mean, it just really pays off. I'm always very happy the about the time and energy and effort I invested early on as a junior, um, because down the line I think that paid off really well. So yeah, that's a little bit about how I got here. And I'm gonna try my best to give you give you an easy, or not easy, but a really concise description of how you can try to do it for yourself. So to start, 2018, it's all about excuse me, um, it's it's all about social media today. We all know that. Um, and what is really making social media so important and powerful and ubiquitous now is how people, individuals, influencers, brands are using it for branding, for marketing. And LinkedIn is that perfect platform to build and craft and and put out your personal brand. Like your LinkedIn profile should be a marketing document for who you are as a person and as a professional. And it's an incredible like platform for storytelling. You know, in the past year per se, like I've really kind of try to get involved more in the LinkedIn community and reflect on the great content creation I've seen from the influencers that I like and the voices that I like on LinkedIn. And I've begun to share my own content and tell my own story. Um, if I hadn't practiced by just, you know, word vomiting on a post on LinkedIn, I probably wouldn't be here sharing it with you now. But it's so that to dig into that storytelling element a little bit, your LinkedIn summary is a great place to start to really build out your profile. So, I mean, I wonder, could I do not use I do not use GoToWebinar enough, so I don't want to try to share my screen. That'd probably be kind of difficult. I don't know if
You can try.
are you still sharing yours, Janet, actually?
Yeah. You want me to go to LinkedIn?
Yeah, if you would go to my profile,
Okay.
actually.
Yeah.
Um, so um, like I said earlier, everyone, it really is a work in progress and like constantly, it's a living document. So for me, I mean, it took time to say for me to sit back and say, okay, what what is important to me? Like I know those things, but to put them into really succinct words and say, okay, what's important to me? What is important to me professionally? Like where am I now? Where am I trying to get to? And what do I need to be sharing with other professionals that is going to communicate to them who I am and where I'm going and get them bought in to my story and my journey.
Okay.
Because that's really what hiring is, you know.
Okay. Do you
Um,
see it?
um, I see it. I
Yeah.
hope
Everyone
everyone
sees
else
it.
can.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I I say a little bit about the things I'm most interested in. I talk a little bit about what I'm doing, what I have done, what I'm doing now. Um, and I mean, it doesn't have to look like this. Some people go third person route, some people go first person route. Some people make it more narrative and less biographical. But it's your brand, and like you really get to choose how you do that, but it's just important that you do it, that you put out who you are, um, and define your identity professionally. Um, and it doesn't matter how you choose to voice it as long as you're being authentic. Um, which is a great segue into connections. Um, Now, LinkedIn in the past, uh, there's this acronym, and I know I mentioned it in the um I mentioned it the last time we talked, Janet,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's in the blog.
Hmm.
You guys should check that out. If there's anything I forget to say here, it's probably in that blog.
Hmm.
But the acronym is LION, LION. So it's LinkedIn Open Networker, and it's kind of faded away at this point. Like LinkedIn has like limits on how many requests you can make and how many connections. Well, I don't think they limit your connections, but they've put some things into place to discourage that behavior a little bit. But a LinkedIn open networker is someone who, like they'll just connect with everyone. Like they see you somewhere or they see you have a lot of connections and they're going to reach out to you and just try to connect. Um, if it's something I personally have not do not agree with because I think it's important to have meaningful connections. So for me, I started with connecting with classmates or people from work, people who like I know the quality of their work or at least who they are. Um, but like they know the quality of my work and they know who I am and they know what's important to me. Um, because if like at the end of the day, you know what? Actually, I'll there's a quote. I mean, you hear it all the time, and I first heard it um from Jeff at HCC, and I mean he puts it simply, network or not work, and that's so true. I mean that's why I'm sharing all this with you. It's the importance of networking. And it is a skill, and like I said, it's a process. But if you're gonna have a network, it needs to be a strong one. If the links between 2 points are weak, then you're not gonna get anything out of that network. So I really encourage you to think about who you're accepting. And if someone comes to you and says, hey, I'd like to connect, like really try to understand what that connection is. Sometimes someone will reach out to me and I will message back to them and say, okay, like why did you reach out? And it's like, oh well, like I saw you're interested in this and like I'm really interested in this and like I think we could like bounce ideas off each other and like have great conversations about this and I think that's great and I love that. And so like I accept them and I meet fantastic people and professionals. But yeah, pro strong network links. um I guess on a more functional side, I mentioned telling your story and being authentic. But part of that storytelling, especially when you're describing your roles on LinkedIn, is kind of learning that corporate lingo. So I encourage you to, look at people in your industry or in the industries you want to go to, go into, and see how they talk about their roles. Especially when you're young and like just starting in the professional world, it's kind of tough to understand like your value proposition. It's tough to understand what it is exactly you're offering, especially when like if you're in the job search, like you're like in the thick of it, and you're sending app after app after app, and you're like not getting anything back. It can be really frustrating and you could really think, wow, like do I have skills, like what can I offer, like what are they looking for? But so much of that is just like because of the language. We're in this oversaturated world, and so many applications, they go into a system and it's searching for keywords, um, which is another reason why networking is so important. But when you're using those keywords in your LinkedIn profile, then you don't have to do the work. That's when people find you. Um, so try to think about learning that language a little bit. And like maybe it's not all quantitative. Maybe it's not like numbers and metrics, but like learn the lingo for your industry. And I guess the last thing I would want to add is, staying active and staying relevant on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn has the most intuitive um, algorithm of any profile, any social media platform right now. It's really truly a democracy. You follow someone, you're going to get a little bit of what they're doing on your feed. If they're doing a lot, you're going to see more of it. Like if you like something, that like is going to show up on someone's feed or on your connections feed, if they're scrolling for long enough. Um, if you share something, that's going to show up too. And like the more you do that, um, it not only keeps you in the mind of your connections, but it also puts your name out in front of other people, and other people get curious. I mean, like it's I mean, it's building community, but it's also really building that network. Like I love I like really love the news on LinkedIn. They'd post every morning at like 6 o'clock. It's one of the first things I read when I wake up, and it's just like five or six short stories and like a thought of the day from some business leader. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's not, but they have comments on all of them. And like if it's something I'm interested in, I'm gonna hop in there. Is anyone saying anything interesting? Do I want to share my thoughts? Do I think someone's looking at something the wrong way? Can I like respectfully contribute an alternative opinion? And I mean, yeah, like I've met people in comments, and again, like the same thing, like we'll have conversations, we'll learn from each other. And uh yeah, like I think is just that's just a way to amplify your impact and the spread of your profile, your brand, um, into like your larger professional network. Um, so yeah, I promised I would keep it under 30. I have. Um, did any questions come in, Janet?
Yes, if you, I don't think we, if you have any questions, please send them through the chat box. If you have any, but I have a question. I was
Sure.
wondering, yeah, I was wondering just as you kept, I guess when you first started on LinkedIn, when you had like zero connections, how did you, motivate yourself to like keep going and just say, one day this will really pay off?
Um, well, so on one side, and I don't know how much they're doing that now, and I've been on the platform for almost 4 years now, but I remember before I had one, I would always, or not always, but I would get emails saying, "Oh, so and so joined LinkedIn. They're inviting you to come in and and join as well." So there's that on the one side. Like when I joined, I had a couple connection invitations, but for me, it was just I was a junior in college, and at that point, I was going into the summer. I was probably working on my resume for my research that summer, um, because I was getting ready to apply to things. And it like made sense. Like you're working on a resume, you could work on LinkedIn side by
Hmm.
side. Um, like when I'm updating my resume, I go to my LinkedIn because that's constantly being updated.
Hmm.
So I'll go to my LinkedIn and pull what's relevant to put into my resume
Hmm.
because it's all there.
Yeah, you're gonna work on your resume anyway, so LinkedIn,
Exactly.
right? I see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was just it was something, and I mean, like, yeah, like it is a lot of work for sure. When you first get started, it looks like an uphill battle, but again, take your time. If you could put in 15 minutes a
Hmm.
day or 30 minutes a week, um, before you know it, you're gonna have a profile that is attracting attention. So.
Okay. Yeah. So Jonathan asks, as someone in the job search, how do you best go about reaching out to alumni in those companies you are applying to? And also, when you find positions, but cold call them.
Oh, excuse me. Um, so regarding alumni in companies, I think with alums, that's a really, I mean, I don't want to say undervalued resource because I think people do take advantage of it, but alums are a great way into a great way to get your foot in the door. Um, I'm I'm of the belief that cold calling is like really aggressive, and like if you're feeling aggressive and confident, I'd say go for it. Uh, but in terms of that like first outreach, I'd say LinkedIn's a great way to do it, and email's a great way to do it. If you can find their email on the company website, that's a great way. If there is an alumni network for your university and there's an email listed there, like they're in the network, like to help they want to help young alums, that's a great way. And then there's also LinkedIn. Um, just uh, you go to a profile, and I guess I should add this. I know I mentioned this in the previous blog post,
Mhm.
but when I'm reaching out to someone that I don't know personally, I will always add a note. Or even if I like just met them at a professional event, say, "Hi, I'm Kahari. I saw you at so and so conference. You talked about this in your talk. I found this little bit of it really interesting." Or, "Oh, we bumped into each other at that Starbucks and got into a conversation about, I don't know, public health policy. And yeah, it was great to meet your acquaintance. Let's keep in touch." Um, but you can do the same thing for cold outreach. Before I got my offer here at Ipsos, I was doing a lot of networking. Like I said, I left my old role, and I was just out in the world for a month, and I was doing a lot of that. It's like looking through. Another great way is to do it through your other connections. That's what makes having those real connections on LinkedIn even more valuable. There's a feature, and at the end, if I could figure it out, I'll show everyone. But you could look at a job or look at a company, and it will show you, oh, well, you have this friend at the company, or you have this friend who knows five people at the company. Um, so, like through that, you can start to have conversations, learn more about the role, and get that referral, or get straight to the hiring manager who like really has the power.
Yeah, that's a great segue to the next question by Juliet. She asks, if I find an organization that I'm interested in working for, and I see their recruiter on LinkedIn, do you recommend in mailing them? If so, what should I say? I think she meant messaging them.
Well, no, it would be in mail.
Oh, in
I
mail.
would, so the best way to do that, so InMail is one of the ways that LinkedIn makes some money. Most of their money is made from companies posting their jobs on LinkedIn. Excuse me. But yeah, you will want to request them, and add a note. in that request if you don't want to spend money on email credits or buy premium, which only gives you, I think, three emails a month. Um, so like maybe not the best spend if your goal is to uh use it for that. But yeah, I would say like absolutely go for it. I will have recruiters just add me sometimes, and they can see from the things I post and share. It's like, yeah, I'm like very good. I'm like comfortable where I am. I'm like loving my time at Ipsos and excited to like grow here. But yeah, like they're also thinking for the future. They're like, hey, at some point maybe he's gonna want to go, and like we can reach out to him. Uh, so so yes, I would say definitely go reach out to them. In terms of what you should say, I mean, say, hey, like I have this background. I'm really interested in XYZ. Uh, I was hoping that, we could, I mean, if there's a position that you see is open and you think you would be a good candidate, say, hey, could we set up a time for a call, or if you're in the same city, like maybe coffee, and talk about what your expectations are for this role, and like maybe I can share more about myself, and we can see if this is somewhere we can go forward from. Um, my one caveat, I never message someone saying, hey, I'm unemployed. Do you have a job for me? That's 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 not what you want to do. But uh, like you when you're reaching out to someone, when you're networking, it should always kind of be a two-way street. You wanna of course you're looking to get something from it, but you want to be giving value to them too. So like make sure you're keeping that as reciprocal as possible. Um, the thing is, like recruiters, like they get paid to hire people, so it's a little bit different then. But yeah, just like be polite, be authentic, be genuine, and say, hey, like I love this organization, um, and I would love a chance to talk to you, learn more about the organization, um, learn what learn what like new projects are happening, and maybe if there's an opening, uh, then that's something that they say, oh well, um, Janet told me so much about her experience in this and that, and I think that would be incredible at my company. So let me actually say, oh, hey Janet, you know what? Why don't you send me your resume and we can like pick this up another time. Um, so yeah, did I answer all of that?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I was wondering, I feel like a hard part, like as you said, you keep repeating just like, go for it, go for it. I was wondering like if you're having trouble in terms of being specific. I feel like, if you have a specific job title or something, that makes things a little easier. But if you're still kind of deciding on what to do, how could LinkedIn help?
Um, I mean, honestly, it's at that point, I'd say like if you feel confident enough to do it, and if LinkedIn isn't your profile to do your platform to do that, maybe it's something else. But like just say it. Like for example, like I have a lot of interests, and when I was first getting started, I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't know, like, do I want to go into the private sector? Do I want to be in the nonprofit world? Do I want to be looking at health policy? Do I want policy analyst positions? Do I want more like survey market research? Um, do I want more, something else, something more community based? And I think you can say that. Like say, hey, I have like you can make a post. I've seen many people just up on LinkedIn and say, hey, I have experience in A, B, and C, and I would love an opportunity to apply that into this type of role or this type of role or this type of organization. Um, and like I mean that too like comes from that personal branding and that marketing. Uh, like yes there are kind of like different boxes there, and that does make it difficult. It makes it more difficult for sure, but you can position yourself um to be um to be more uh versatile, let's say, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
um Again, it does make it more difficult, and I'm not like I would say as specific as you can set your sights, it does make the path forward easier. um kind of a separate note, but I would say that we are young. I'm assuming, like, I can't tell how many people are in the room right now, but I would assume that our average age is like under 40. And even if you're older than 40, um, there's a lot of time like ahead. And you have more than enough time to say, okay, you know what? It's the end of 2018. In 2019, I am going to be a community health worker and just go after it. And in 2020, I'm going to get into market research and learn all I can about survey research methods and all the research methods, and just do that. Um, like you have the time to explore, and I believe that like we have the time to do it all truly. Um, so yes.
Wow. Well, that's great to end on an uplifting note. Well, thank you so much, Kahari, for taking the time out of your schedule also to do this webinar. I really appreciate it. And we will be sending out the recording to all after we close the webinar. So again, thank you guys for your questions. Thank you guys for your participation. And please feel free to share this recording to your friends and send any feedback you have. If you have any further question about LinkedIn, feel free. I'm sure now we have a connection with you, Kahari, so I'm sure you'll be expecting more connections on LinkedIn. And we'll also share we'll be sharing the blog and his LinkedIn profile link. So thank you so much, Kahari. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Janet, and thank you all for coming, for signing in tonight. Like Janet said, feel free, drop me a line on LinkedIn. Uh, do include a message so I know who
Mhm.
you are and where you're coming from.
Yeah,
But yeah, thanks so much. It was
thank you.
great to answer a couple questions and share with you all tonight. Hope you have
All
a great
right.
rest of your weeks.
All right. Good night, guys.